Chapter 15, Part 1. In this chapter, we're going to be looking at personality and social interaction. Okay, so how our personality is constantly interacting with the environment, how the environment, the social environment, is interacting with our personalities, and how they play out together. There we go. So emphasis on personality as it is affected by and expressed through social institutions, social roles and expectations, and relationships with other people in our lives. Okay, so how does this work? There's three pieces that we're going to look at: selection, evocation, and manipulation. So selection is the first part. So it's the situations that we put ourselves into. It's personality of others influence whether we choose them as friends, dates, marriage partners. Okay, so who do we choose to have in our lives? When you're choosing your partner, you're for life, you're also choosing friend groups, and you're choosing their family, and you're choosing certain activities that you're going to be doing throughout your life, right? Our personality also plays a role in where we place ourselves. So, for example, what did you do last weekend? So, where you chose to place yourself, whether you chose to go out, maybe you chose to go out to, I don't know, social places or the bar, or just go to a restaurant or a friend's house, or maybe, whatever it is that you chose to do. Once you're in those situations, then evocation takes over, right? Or it comes into play, I should say. So selection are the people and the places that we choose to put ourselves into. Evocation, personalities of others evoke responses in us, and vice versa. So my personality, when I go into a situation, my personality is going to evoke responses in other people, and their personalities are going to evoke responses from me, right? Constant interaction and dynamic. And then finally, manipulation. Personality is linked to the way we try to influence things in our lives, influence situations, influence people, how we tend to work with people in our lives. So here's the three pieces. First, we're going to talk about selection in terms of personality characteristics, choosing a partner, breakup of relationships, shyness, and other personality traits. Then we will move on to evocation and manipulation. So let's start with selection, personality characteristics desired in a partner. So when you choose a partner, social selections permeate daily life. They are decision points that direct us to choose one path or another. Okay. Should I take the job? Should I go to the party tonight? Another one that's really, really important is, who are you choosing as your mate? Okay, that's one of the biggest decisions that you're going to make. In choosing your mate, you're also choosing your family, you're choosing friends, you're choosing social actions. You're going to end up doing what they also like doing. So it's a big decision, and it creates sort of like your social world going forward as well. So in class, we did this activity, what's important to you in choosing a partner. And you're supposed to rate it in terms of 3, 2, 1, 0, 3 being like a deal breaker, 2 being important but not a deal breaker, 1 is desirable but not important, and 0 is irrelevant. So in class, we went over these, and more varied than I had expected. But if you look over here, you can sort of do that in your head. Pleasing disposition, sociability, similar educational background, refinement, neatness, whatnot, right? Emotional stability, mutual attraction, love, similar backgrounds. Anyways, so there was a study where they did do this, and a study they talk about in the book. So personality characteristics. So what do people want in a long-term partner? So over 10,000 participants from 37 samples in 33 countries. Okay, so basically across the world, what do people want on all the things on that list? The number one was mutual attraction and love. That was the most favorite characteristic. Second was personality characteristics of dependable character, emotional stability, pleasing disposition, and regardless of sexual orientation. Okay. The other finding was that of all of the characteristics on this list, okay, there's a lot of different types of things. There's personality characteristics, things like similar educational background. That is not a personality characteristic, right? So there's different types of characteristics or whatnot on this list. And what they found was across the 10,000 people, they did choose personality characteristics as important more than the other qualities. So it sort of highlights how important people feel personality characters are in choosing a mate, more so than other dimensions, right? Research, another piece. High in conscientiousness tends to be higher in overall value and desirability. So the first thing I would check is, do you know what conscientiousness means exactly? I would look that up and know what that means going into the test or just going forward, because it's going to be very helpful in understanding how it works, how it's applied, right? So common characteristics of conscientiousness. People who are conscientious, they're very, very organized and driven, right? And they're very responsible. They're very goal-oriented. They like to do things right. They like to do things in order and in sequence. Their cars are clean because they tidy up. They have grocery lists, or maybe they meal plan. They just like to have things organized in a predictable way, so that things are done properly and they've done a good job. So that is across the board. So if you think of a person, first of all, I would suggest think of somebody who you can think, okay, for example, that's like my friend, blah, blah, whoever that is, okay? And then remember these characteristics that going forward in this chapter, you're able to use this to know where they tend to be, what their skill sets tend to be. You'll see as we cross the chapter. Anyways, so people in high in conscientiousness tend to be rated overall highly desirable. So going forward, who is attracted to whom? So when you're thinking of, there's two theories basically, right? Opposites attracts, or is it better to be similar with somebody else? So what do you think? Complementary needs theory, people who are attracted to those who have different personality dispositions than they have. Okay, so I think the theory behind this is, like, if you are dominant, the idea is that you'd want to have somebody you can control as your partner so that you can enjoy your dominance, right? You also, the idea that opposites attract, because somebody who is less like you, those may be more interesting or more exciting characteristics for you. The other theory is attraction similarity theory. So people are attracted to those who have similar personality characteristics. So as opposed to this, where we said the dominant person might want somebody they can dominate, attraction similarity theory would say somebody who is dominant might like somebody who is also dominant, because they're going to push back. They're going to be a challenge, right? They're going to be maybe more exciting or more interesting. So more so similarity, extrovert may want extrovert because they've got similar interests, right? They like to be socializing, they like partying, they like being out doing things. The research overall comes in as saying that attraction similarity theory has more support, repeated demonstration for support of attraction similarity theory. Yeah. So this seems to be the dominant theory, explaining who is attracted to whom. Another theory is assortative mating theory. So this one says that basically research has found overall people tend to be attracted to people who are very similar to themselves, not only in personality characteristics, but even in physical characteristics. Height, weight, nose breadth, earlobe length. Generally, overall, couples show positive correlations in both physical and personality characteristics. Research they've done, couples who have been together the longest appear most similar in personality. Dissimilar couples do tend to break up more often. Assortative mating in gay and lesbian communities, its couples is slightly different. So gay male couples, less homogenous in terms of age and education, and gay female couples, less homogenous in age only. Now, one point of this is, first of all, the research on gay couples, there's less. As I said before, they're catching up, but at this time there is less. But when you're talking about a sort of mating of heterosexual couples, there's generally heterosexuals have more to choose from, right? So they tend to find each other that's more similar, whereas gay couples, possibly the selection is a little fewer, right? So they don't have the wide selection. So they do tend to be less homogenous. There's more variance in their age, and there's more variance in their education levels. And then for females, there's more variance in their age only. What about active selection or the product of sheer proximity? So do we choose mates? Do we actively choose mates that are more similar to us? Or are we choosing mates that are more similar to us because we happen to be in the same environment as they are? Right? So you perhaps have relationships with other students who are also at King's. You're also you're in university. You're also in psychology or in a similar field, right? So because of sheer proximity, you tend to choose your mate from that area, and that speaks to why they're similar as well. Do people get the partners they want, and are they happy? So we do not always get what we want, and this is true of partner selection. So many people end up partnered with individuals who fall short of their ideals. So we all have ideas about what we want in a person, and what happens when it turns out they're not. I'm sure we've all experienced that. Bought One It All, 1997. So correlations between preferences for ideal personality characters in a partner and then the actual personality characteristics of the partner that you got. So they did this study and they measured extroversion, agreeableness, conscientiousness, emotional stability, and intellect openness. So what did they find? Consistently positive correlations for high correlation wants gets for extroversion and intellectual openness. So for extroversion, people who wanted extroverted partners tended to get extroverted partners. People who wanted intellect openness tended to get intellect openness in their partners. So overall, they did seem to get what they want in terms of the personality. Partner's personality had a large effect on their marital satisfaction, especially agreeableness, emotional stability, and openness. So couples or partners that were higher in these traits tended to have higher levels of marital satisfaction as well. A little bit of the same information, a little bit of repeat here. People who are especially happy if they're married to partners that are high on agreeableness, emotional stability, and openness. So again, instead of just memorizing this, you can think of, hopefully yourself, maybe, or a partner that you know, a couple that you know, that tend to be very agreeable, they're very emotionally stable, and they're very open with each other. Okay, and then you can have that in your sort of schema of what are the characteristics of happily married people, instead of just rote memorizing these things. High on conscientiousness. If wives are high on conscientiousness, men are more sexually satisfied. Do you remember the definition of conscientiousness? Apply that to sexual satisfaction. You can remember it that way. If husbands are more conscientious, then wives are happier with stimulating conversations. Meta-analysis found emotional stability and agreeableness the strongest predictors of satisfaction in intimate romantic relationships. What about breaking up? So, violation of desire theory, breakup should be more common when one's desires are violated than when they are fulfilled. Fairly straightforward, right? People actively seek mates who are dependable and emotionally stable. Those who fail to choose such a mate, they tend to break up more often and they're at risk for divorce. So you can remember that dependability and emotional stability is very important. Emotional stability and neuroticism, the number one predictor of relationship breakup. Okay, so people who are neurotic and emotionally unstable, maybe you can think of an example of that type of person from someone that you know. And then attribute the characteristics of those things, such as high level of jealousy, controlling, right? Always in desperate need of confirmation. Low impulse control and low conscientiousness, also a good predictor of breakup, especially in men. Two pieces of research. A study of 52 nations found that low agreeableness and low conscientiousness associated with higher rates of sexual infidelity. So low conscientiousness is similar to saying high impulsivity, right? So you can remember that related to higher rates of sexual infidelity. So maybe they don't think things through. Maybe they're impulsive and they run out and they have these sexual affairs. Relationship satisfaction, closeness of match between an individual conception of an ideal mate and their partner's actual personality. Yeah, so the more different their ideal mate and the mate they actually got, the bigger the difference, the lower the satisfaction in the relationship. A little bit of a different topic here. Looking at shyness and the selection of risky situations. So what does the personality of shyness, what does that do for a person? How does that play out and how does that affect their lives and the decisions that they make and the situations that they put themselves in? So shyness, tendency to feel tense, worried, and anxious during social interactions or even when people anticipating a social interaction. So we're not talking about people who are occasionally shy. We're all occasionally shy. We're talking about people who are deeply shy, right? They're dispositionally shy, okay? And there's physiological underpinnings that go along with that. So shy people generally want to be socially involved, but have high self-doubt and high self-consciousness. So therefore, they avoid situations where they may have to interact with people. So they may want it, but in addition to feeling really anxious, maybe mentally feeling anxious, they're also physically feeling anxious. Okay, so they're going to start to avoid these things. One research piece here, there was this study, and there's 2 bags of chips, like poker chips, right? And each bag had 100 chips in them. One bag, you had a 95% chance of winning 25 cents. And a 5% chance of winning $4.75. In the other bag, you only had a 5% chance of winning $4.75. And then the rest was going to be the 25 cents. So what they did was they had them measure, which bag do you want? Do you want to choose the bag where you've got the best chance of winning something, or do you want to take the risk of winning nothing, but the reward will be big if you do. So they measured the choices, and they also measured their heart rates as they went into the room to make this decision. The result was shy women chose the 95% chance of winning bag. So they went in and they chose the bag they had the best chance of winning at. It's the least amount of stress, right? Because they got the best chance of winning. But they also found that even so, they still had the largest increase in heart rate. So even just choosing the bag made them anxious or, nervous. So, summary: importance of personality disposition of shyness in the selection or avoidance of certain situations. So shy women, what does this mean for their life? So think of all the areas in your life where you have to make decisions that might be a little bit nerve-wracking or may arouse anxiety in you. And for a shy person, that's going to be even more. So shy people are less likely to go to a gynecologist. They're less likely to bring up contraception with potential sex partners. They're less likely to do many more things because they get anxious and their heart rate increases, right? So shy people avoid situations where they would be forced to interact with others. Personality, other personality traits and selections of situations. So in addition to shyness, personality affects situations to which people are exposed through selective entry into or avoidance of certain activities. So people who are very high on empathy tend to be found volunteering in communities more often. They would find themselves in those situations, right? Or put themselves in those helping situations. People who are higher on psychoticism choose volatile, spontaneous situations. That's more exciting, right? Machiavellianism prefer face-to-face situations, better chance to manipulate, right? So if Machiavellianism, they feel like they can control the situation or control other people by manipulating them, they're going to choose to be face-to-face where they can more effectively do that. People who are more extroverted, they tend to put themselves in those very, very social, situations, social arenas, and they tend to select more friends, right? They like to maybe believe they have 20, 30, or 50 close friends. Those high in agreeableness are selected more by others as friends. Sensation seeking, they tend to put themselves more in risky situations. Risky driving, risky parties and drinking, and males in unprotected sex, they tend to have more partners as well. So you can remember that. Males who score high on sensation seeking, they like things to be exciting, they like to have they're more often having unprotected sex, and they're more often having sex with more partners. Piece of research: 112 straight high sensation seeking men, greater scores than low scoring peers to having unprotected sex more frequently. So what about social media use? There's contradictory evidence on this. Okay, so one study saying high extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism is associated with more frequent social media use. Other studies, 20,000 adults, it was an international study. They found high extroversion, agreeableness, conscientious, neurotic, all associated with more frequent social media use, and people low in neuroticism use it less. So some support for that, but then there's a meta-analysis of 61 studies that found weak correlations between social media use and the big 5 traits. So when you see this, there's conflicting evidence, which basically means that they need to do more research. Some studies do find that these personality characteristics are associated with more frequent media use, but then across the board of all the studies, it's weak correlations. So overall, not strong, and there needs to be more research, and I don't think you could effectively say or correctly say that there are characteristics that are indicators. Not quite yet. And that is the end of part 1. In part 2, we'll be looking at evocation. I will see you there.